The council chamber floated in the void between stars, a massive station where representatives from 300 species gathered to make decisions that shaped the galaxy. Today, the air shimmered with tension as holographic displays showed a small, blue-green world orbiting a yellow sun in the outer reaches of known space. Ambassador Thexan of the Vorqual Collective raised 3 of his 4 arms, calling for attention. His species had led the Galactic Council for 8,000 years, and his voice carried the weight of that history. Honored delegates, we have discovered a species that requires our immediate protection. The Yvari, as our xenologists have named them, are unlike any people we have encountered in recent memory. The displays shifted, showing images of the Yvari themselves. They stood perhaps 4 feet tall, with soft gray skin and large, gentle eyes that seemed to hold an ancient sadness. Their bodies were slight, almost fragile, with delicate 3-fingered hands that moved with careful precision. They lived in small villages, built from natural materials, creating art and music that resonated with a haunting beauty. The Yvari are telepathic, Thexan continued. They share thoughts, emotions, and memories with one another. They have never known violence. In their entire recorded history, spanning at least 20,000 years, they have never raised a hand against one of their own. A murmur ran through the chamber. Such a thing was almost unheard of. Even the most peaceful species had some history of conflict, some moment when survival demanded harsh choices. They are completely pacifist, added Dr. Selvik, the Vorqual's chief xenologist. Our observation teams report that they cannot even conceive of intentionally harming another living being. The concept is so foreign to their telepathic nature that attempting to explain warfare to them causes them psychological distress. Ambassador G1 Park of Earth sat quietly in the human delegation section, her dark eyes studying the images carefully. Humanity had been granted junior membership in the Council only 15 years ago, after finally proving they could engage in galactic politics without excessive violence. The other species still watched them with cautious suspicion. We propose, Thexan declared, that the Yvari be granted protected species status at the highest level. Category 1 protection. The chamber erupted in discussion. Category 1 protection was rarely granted. It meant complete isolation from the rest of the galaxy. Military patrols, enforcing a quarantine zone around their entire star system, and severe penalties for any unauthorized contact. G1 raised her hand, waiting for recognition. Thexan's eyes flickered toward her, and she could see the brief hesitation. Humans were still outsiders here, still proving themselves worthy of their place among the stars. The chair recognizes Ambassador Park of Earth, Thexan said finally. G1 stood, her voice calm and measured. We understand the Council's concern for the Yvari. They are clearly a gentle and unique people. However, we question whether Category 1 protection is truly in their best interest. The chamber fell silent. Several delegates turned to stare at the human delegation in surprise. Explain, Thexan said, his tone careful. Category 1 protection treats them like specimens in a museum, G1 said. It denies them any chance to grow, to change, to have meaningful contact with the broader galaxy. We propose Category 3 protection instead, allowing limited contact under supervision, giving them the chance to develop at their own pace while still being safeguarded. Your species has been in the galaxy for barely a generation, snapped Ambassador Krell of the Saxith Empire, his scales rattling with irritation. You cannot possibly understand the responsibility we bear for species less fortunate than ourselves. Perhaps that's exactly why our perspective has value, G1 replied evenly. We remember what it was like to be the newcomers, to have others making decisions about our future without our input. The debate continued for hours, but in the end, the vote was overwhelming. 287 species voted for Category 1 protection. Only humanity, and a handful of others, dissented. The Yvari would be isolated, protected by the full might of the Galactic Council, preserved in their peaceful innocence, forever. As the session ended, G1 gathered her notes and prepared to leave. Admiral Min Jun Choi, the human military observer assigned to the council, approached her with a troubled expression. "You did what you could," he said quietly. "They made their choice." "I know," Ji-won sighed. "I just hope it's the right one." Far away, on the Yavari homeworld, the people went about their peaceful lives, unaware of the galactic politics swirling around them. They tended their gardens, created their art, and shared their thoughts in the gentle communion of their telepathic bonds. Children played in the meadows, while adults crafted intricate sculptures that captured the beauty of their world. Elder Mian sat beneath a flowering tree, his ancient mind reaching out to touch the thoughts of his people. He felt their contentment, their joy, their simple pleasure in existence. For 20,000 years, his people had lived this way, and he hoped they would continue for 20,000 more. In the darkness between stars, something else stirred. The Krelith swarm had been watching the council's deliberations with great interest. They were pirates, raiders, and slavers, caring nothing for galactic law or the supposed sanctity of protected species. They saw only opportunity. Their commander, a scarred veteran named Vexoth, studied the data his spies had gathered. A peaceful species, completely defenseless, protected only by council patrol ships that followed predictable routes and rigid engagement protocols. The Yavari could be captured and sold to the highest bidder as servants, pets, or curiosities for the wealthy of a dozen different empires. "Begin preparations," Vexoth ordered. "We move in 3 cycles." His subordinates scattered to ready the fleet. The Krelith had learned long ago that the council was slow to act, bound by endless debates and procedures. By the time they organized a proper response, the swarm would be long gone with their prize. In the council chambers, the protection protocols were being implemented. Patrol routes were established. Warning beacons were positioned at the edge of the Yavari system, and strict no-contact orders were distributed to every registered ship in the sector. Ji-won watched the proceedings and felt a cold knot of worry in her stomach. They were building a cage of protection around the Yavari, one that looked strong but had never been truly tested. She thought of Earth's history, of all the times good intentions had led to terrible outcomes, of how protection without strength was just another word for vulnerability. "I hope we're wrong about this," she murmured to Admiral Choi. "So do I," he replied. The Yavari remained in their peaceful isolation, protected by laws and good intentions, while in the darkness, predators began their approach. The galaxy was about to learn a hard lesson about the difference between protection on paper and protection in practice. And humanity was about to teach it. The attack came without warning during the night cycle, when the Council patrol fleet was at minimum staffing. Vexoth had planned it perfectly, studying the patrol patterns for weeks, identifying every weakness in the defensive perimeter around the Yavari system. The Krelith swarm dropped out of faster-than-light travel in 12 different locations simultaneously, overwhelming the sensor networks with false signatures and jamming signals. By the time the Council ships realized what was happening, half of them were already burning wreckage tumbling through the void. Captain Thronus of the Vorqual patrol cruiser Steadfast watched in horror as his tactical display lit up with hostile contacts. 3 Krelith destroyers were bearing down on his position, their weapons already charging. "All ships, this is Steadfast Actual. We are under attack. Repeat. The Yavari system is under attack." He slammed his hand on the communications panel. "Sound the alert to Council Command. We need reinforcements immediately." But the Krelith had planned for that too. Jamming fields spread across the system like a blanket, cutting off long-range communications. The distress signal would get through eventually, but it would be fragmented, delayed. By the time Council Command received it and organized a response, it would be too late. The battle was brutally one-sided. The Council patrol ships were designed for law enforcement, not military combat. They had shields meant to withstand asteroid impacts and weapons capable of disabling small pirate craft. The Krelith swarm brought warships built for conquest, covered in scars from 100 previous raids. Steadfast shuddered as plasma bolts tore through her shields. Thronis gripped his command chair as the deck tilted beneath him. "Return fire! All batteries!" he shouted. But he already knew it was hopeless. His ship's weapons scored the armor of the nearest Krelith destroyer, but failed to penetrate. A second volley from the enemy ships smashed through Steadfast's main reactor. "Abandon ship!" Thronis ordered as alarms screamed throughout the vessel. He stayed at his post, manually broadcasting a final message on all frequencies, hoping someone, somewhere would hear it. "The Krelith swarm has breached the protection zone. They need help. Someone please." The transmission ended as Steadfast exploded in a brilliant flash of light. On the Yvari homeworld below, Elder Miyan was the first to sense that something was wrong. The telepathic network that connected all Yvari began to ripple with confusion and fear. His people had no experience with such emotions on this scale. Then the Krelith landing craft began to descend, and the Yvari learned what terror truly meant. The raiders moved with practiced efficiency, having conducted operations like this dozens of times before. They swept through Yvari settlements with stun weapons and capture nets, rounding up the helpless inhabitants like livestock. The Yvari could not fight back, could not even conceive of fighting back. They could only flee or huddle together, their telepathic screams of distress echoing through their shared consciousness. Miyan tried to comfort his people, tried to send thoughts of peace and calm through the network. But his own fear was too great. He felt every moment of terror from his people as the Krelith dragged them toward the landing craft. Felt the confusion and betrayal as they wondered why this was happening to them. The distress was so powerful that it began to bleed beyond their world, touching the minds of any telepathic or empathic species within range. Across dozens of nearby systems, sensitive individuals clutched their heads in pain, overwhelmed by the psychic tsunami of Yvari suffering. At the Galactic Council headquarters, the emergency session convened 6 hours after the first reports arrived. Ambassador Thexan stood before the assembled delegates, his usual composure shaken. "The situation is catastrophic," he announced. "The entire patrol fleet has been destroyed. The Krelith swarm has landed on the Yvari homeworld and is conducting large-scale abduction operations. Our preliminary estimates suggest they have already captured several thousand Yvari." The chamber erupted in outrage and demands for action. But as the debate began, it quickly became clear that action would not come quickly. The Vorqual wanted to organize a proper military response, which would require assembling ships from a dozen different species. The Saxith Empire insisted on attempting diplomatic channels first, arguing that opening negotiations might save Yvari lives. "We must follow proper procedures," Ambassador Krell insisted. "If we respond with excessive force, we risk escalating this into a broader conflict." "The Yvari are being enslaved right now," shouted a delegate from the Marathi cluster. "While we debate procedures, they suffer, and rushing in without a plan will only make things worse." Krell shot back. "We need to consider sanctions, trade restrictions, diplomatic pressure." G1 Park sat in the human delegation section, listening to the debate with growing fury. She looked at Admiral Choi, who sat rigid in his seat. His jaw clenched so tight she could see the muscles working. "How long?" she whispered to him. "How long for what?" he replied, though his eyes told her he already knew the question. "How long until the council actually does something?" Choi glanced at the debating delegates, at the procedural motions being filed, at the committees being formed to study the situation. "Weeks," he said quietly. "Maybe months." Ji-won made her decision. She stood abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. Every eye in the chamber turned to her. "Ambassador Park," Thexan said, "the chair has not recognized you." "I don't care," Ji-won said flatly. She gathered her materials and looked directly at the Vorqual ambassador. "You created Category 1 protection to safeguard the Yvari. You promised them they would be safe. You failed. Ambassador, your tone is inappropriate." "My tone," Ji-won's voice rose. "Right now, as we sit here debating procedures and protocols, the Yvari are being dragged onto slave ships. They are terrified. They are alone. They believed the galaxy would protect them, and we are failing them with every second we waste." She turned to leave, and the entire human delegation rose with her. Admiral Choi fell into step beside her, along with Captain Sung-Ho Kim and the other military observers. "Where are you going?" Thekson demanded. Ji-won paused at the exit and looked back. "To do what we should have done from the beginning. Humanity is withdrawing from this debate. We will handle this ourselves." "You have no authority," Krell shouted. "Any unauthorized military action will result in immediate expulsion from the Council." "Then expel us," Choi said quietly. "We'll sleep just fine." The human delegation walked out, leaving the council chamber in chaos behind them. As they made their way to the docking bay, where the human ships waited, G1 activated her secure communicator. "This is Ambassador Park to Fleet Command," she said. "Authorization code, Park Delta 77 Whiskey. Initiate Operation Righteous Fury." On the other end of the line, Admiral Sarah Chen, commander of the 3rd Human Fleet, smiled grimly. "We've been waiting for that order, Ambassador. The fleet is already moving. We'll be in the Yvari system in 18 hours. The Council will be furious," G1 warned. "Let them," Chen replied. "We didn't come to the stars to file paperwork while innocents suffer." 3rd Fleet out. As the human ships prepared to jump to faster than light speed, the Yvari continued to suffer. Elder Mian, dragged aboard a Krelith slave ship, sent one final telepathic pulse into the void. A desperate cry for help that he knew might never be answered. But unknown to him, humanity had already heard, and they were coming with fire and fury. The 3rd Human Fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Yvari system like an avenging hammer. 38 warships materialized in perfect formation, their weapons already charged, and targeting solutions locked. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of her flagship, the UES Indomitable, and surveyed the tactical display. The Krelith had scattered their forces across the system, confident that no one would challenge them quickly enough to matter. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "Communications. Open a channel to all Krelith vessels," Chen ordered. "Let's give them one chance." The channel opened, and Chen's voice broadcast across every Krelith ship in the system. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Forces. You are in violation of Galactic Council protection protocols and have committed acts of violence against a peaceful species. You will immediately release all Yvari captives, power down your weapons, and prepare to be boarded. You have 60 seconds to comply." On the Krelith command ship, Vexoth stared at the human fleet in disbelief. Where had they come from? The Council couldn't possibly have organized a response this quickly. He sneered at the transmission. "Humans," he spat. "The Council's newest puppies, come to bark at their betters." He opened his own channel. "This system is ours by right of conquest. Turn your ships around and leave, or we will destroy you." Chen checked her chronometer. 45 seconds remaining. "Did you hear me, human? We have thousands of Yvari aboard our ships. If you attack, they will die in the crossfire." 30 seconds. Vexoth's confidence wavered slightly. The human ships were not withdrawing. If anything, they were advancing, tightening their formation in a pattern he recognized as a pre-attack maneuver. He had heard stories about humans, about their brief but violent wars with other species before joining the Council, about their refusal to follow the normal rules of engagement. "You're bluffing," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. 15 seconds, Chen said calmly. "All ships, prepare to engage. Rules of engagement are weapons-free. Precision strikes only. Protect the Yvari at all costs." "Wait," Vexoth shouted. "We can negotiate. We'll return half the Yvari if you—" "Time's up," Chen said. "Fire." The human fleet opened fire with surgical precision. Their weapons had been designed after studying decades of galactic conflicts, learning from the mistakes of other species, and incorporating human military doctrine that stretched back thousands of years. Each shot was calculated, targeted, measured for maximum effect with minimum collateral damage. Krelith shields flared and collapsed under the withering assault. Their weapons, designed to overwhelm inferior opponents with raw firepower, couldn't track the human ships as they executed combat maneuvers that would have torn apart vessels from most other species. Human crews, bred in the gravity well of Earth, could withstand accelerations that would kill or disable other galactic species. Within minutes, 3 Krellith destroyers were burning hulks. The rest scattered, trying to flee or regroup, but the human formation split seamlessly, pursuit groups peeling off to chase down every enemy vessel. "Launch assault teams," Chen ordered. "Get our people on those slave ships. I want every Yvari recovered." Across the system, human boarding craft launched from their carriers, small and fast ships piloted by men and women who had trained their entire lives for moments like this. They approached the Krellith vessels with controlled aggression, breaching hulls and deploying Marines in full combat armor. Sergeant He-Jin Song led her squad through the corridors of a Krellith slave transport, her weapons sweeping for targets. The Krellith guards tried to mount a defense, but they were used to fighting species that followed galactic conventions, that worried about collateral damage and proportional response. Humans didn't fight that way, not when protecting the helpless. Song's squad moved like a single organism, covering angles and advancing with practiced precision. When they encountered a group of Krellith trying to use Yvari captives as shields, Song didn't hesitate. Her team's marksman, Private Tae-Young Moon, took 3 precision shots in under 2 seconds, dropping each Krellith guard without harming a single Yvari. "Clear!" Song shouted. "Medic up!" Corporal Ji-Hoon Kang rushed forward, his medical pack already open. The Yvari huddled together, their large eyes wide with terror, their telepathic cries of distress so powerful that even the non-telepathic humans could feel a faint echo of their fear. "It's okay," Kang said softly, injecting a sedative into the nearest Yvari. "You're safe now. We've got you." But the Yvari didn't understand. They had never known violence before, and now they were surrounded by it, caught between their captors and these new arrivals in heavy armor, carrying weapons. Their telepathic network was a storm of confusion and fear. Song knelt beside them, removing her helmet so they could see her face. She had learned about the Yvari during the briefing, learned that they responded to emotional honesty, to openness. "My name is He-Jin," she said gently. "We came to help you. I know you're scared. I know this is overwhelming. But we will get you home. I promise." Something in her voice, in the sincerity of her emotions, cut through the telepathic chaos. The nearest Yvari, a young one barely 3 feet tall, reached out tentatively and touched Song's hand. The physical contact created a brief telepathic connection, and the Yvari gasped as they felt her emotions anger at the Krellith. Fierce protective instinct toward the Yvari, determination to see this through no matter the cost. The young Yvari turned to the others and sent a pulse through their network. "The humans are friends. They came to save us." More human teams fought their way through other Krellith ships. Captain Sung-Ho Kim led a special forces unit in an assault on Vexoth's command ship, where the Krellith commander had barricaded himself with a group of Yvari elders, including Mian. "You'll kill them if you attack," Vexoth screamed over the communications channel. "I have explosives rigged throughout this section. Come any closer and I'll detonate." Sung-Ho studied the ship's layout on his tactical display. The Krellith was desperate and cornered, which made him dangerous. But Sung-Ho hadn't survived 3 combat deployments by taking unnecessary risks. He switched to a private channel with his demolitions expert. "Minseo, can you breach from the exterior without setting off his charges?" Lieutenant Choi Minseo examined the hull scans. "Maybe. It'll be tight, but I think I can cut through here without triggering internal sensors. Give me 8 minutes. "You have 5, Sung-Ho replied. While Minseo worked, Sung-Ho kept Vexoth talking, drawing his attention away from the hull. "You know this is over, right? Your fleet is destroyed. Your ships are being captured. You can't escape." "Maybe not," Vexoth snarled. "But I can take these precious Yvari with me. The Council will remember that you humans got them killed. Will they?" Sung-Ho asked. "Or will they remember that you took them hostage?" That you used innocent lives as shields because you were too coward to face the consequences of your actions? The hull suddenly peeled away as Min Seo completed her cutting, and Sung Ho's team poured through the breach in a perfectly coordinated assault. Vexoth spun toward them, his hand reaching for the detonator, but Sung Ho was faster. A single shot from his rifle sent the device flying from the Krelith's hand. Mission accomplished, Sung Ho reported. Hostages secure. Primary target captured. Across the system, similar scenes played out on every Krelith vessel. Within 3 hours of the human fleet's arrival, the battle was effectively over. Krelith ships burned or drifted helpless in space, their crews killed or captured. Every single Yvari had been recovered. Admiral Chen stood on her bridge, receiving reports from all units. 0 human fatalities. 17 wounded, none critically. All Yvari accounted for and receiving medical care. But as she watched the last Krelith ship surrender, she made a decision that would send shockwaves through the galaxy. She opened a fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. Well done today, but we're not finished. She paused, letting that sink in. The Krelith fleet is attempting to scatter and escape. Under normal galactic rules of engagement, we would let them run. But I'm not interested in normal rules. I'm interested in sending a message. On several human ships, Council observers who had been monitoring the battle began protesting. Admiral, the battle is over. The Yvari are safe. You cannot pursue a defeated enemy. Chen ignored them. All ships, pursue and engage. No Krelith vessel leaves this system. Not one. Let the galaxy know what happens when you hurt those under our protection. The human fleet split into pursuit formations and began the hunt. The lesson had only just begun. The Krelith destroyer Ravager limped through space, its engines sputtering, leaving a trail of debris and coolant behind it. Captain Drexus had watched his fleet torn apart by the human warships and decided that survival mattered more than pride. He ordered his ship to flee at maximum speed, hoping to reach the edge of the system before the humans could catch him. He was wrong. The UES Relentless overtook Ravager within an hour, matching its course and speed with casual ease. Commander Park Jae-won studied the damaged Krelith ship on his tactical display and opened a communications channel. Krelith vessel Ravager. This is Commander Park of the Relentless. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Drexus stared at his sensors in disbelief. The battle was over. The Yvari were safe. Why were the humans still pursuing? We are leaving the system. We are no longer a threat. You were a threat the moment you decided to attack a protected species, Park replied. You don't get to just run away and try again somewhere else. Power down your engines. This is your only warning. Drexus made the fatal mistake of trying to run. He diverted all remaining power to engines and attempted to jump to faster than light speed. The Relentless responded with a single, precise shot that vaporized Ravager's jump drive. I gave you a warning, Park said quietly, then ordered his weapons officer to finish it. Similar scenes played out across the system as human ships hunted down every fleeing Krelith vessel. Those who surrendered were taken prisoner. Those who tried to fight or flee were destroyed. The humans were methodical, relentless, and absolutely unforgiving. Aboard Admiral Chen's flagship, the Council observers were in an uproar. Ambassador Pelthix, of the Marathi cluster, a species known for their diplomatic nature, confronted Chen on her own bridge. Admiral, you must cease this pursuit immediately. This is a violation of every galactic convention of warfare. The enemy is retreating. The battle is won. Chen turned to face him, her expression carved from stone. Ambassador, with all due respect, your galactic conventions are exactly why the Yvari were attacked in the first place. That is absurd. We have rules of engagement to prevent excessive bloodshed. Your rules taught species like the Krelith that they can raid protected worlds, and the worst that will happen is they have to retreat and try again later, Chen interrupted. Well, we're teaching a different lesson today. You're teaching them to fear you, to hate you. Good. Chen said flatly. I want every pirate, slaver, and raider in this galaxy to be absolutely terrified of what will happen if they touch a species under human protection. I want them to know that if they attack the defenseless, we won't file a complaint or impose sanctions. We will hunt them down, and we will end them. Pelthix stared at her in shock. This is barbaric. No, Ambassador. Barbaric is what the Krelith did to the Yvari. This is justice. Chen turned back to her tactical display. Now, unless you plan to physically stop me, I suggest you return to your quarters and file whatever reports you need to file. We have work to finish. On the surface of the Yvari homeworld, a different kind of work was already underway. Human engineers and aid workers had deployed the moment the orbital space was secure, bringing medical supplies, temporary shelters, and reconstruction equipment. Sergeant Song walked through a Yvari settlement that had been ransacked by the Krelith. Her combat armor exchanged for simple fatigues and a medic's armband. The Yvari watched her with cautious curiosity, their telepathic network slowly calming as they realized the violence had truly ended. A young Yvari approached her hesitantly, the same one who had touched her hand during the rescue. Song knelt to be at eye level with the small being. Hello again, she said softly. How are you feeling? The Yvari reached out and touched her hand again. And Song felt a rush of emotions through the brief telepathic contact. Gratitude, lingering fear, confusion about why anyone would help them, wonder at these strange beings who fought so fiercely, yet could be so gentle. You saved us, the young Yvari said aloud, their voice like wind chimes. Why? Song thought about how to answer that in a way the Yvari would understand. Because you needed help, and we could give it. Because leaving you to suffer would have been wrong. But you killed for us. You did violence. Yes, Song admitted. And it will haunt some of us for the rest of our lives. Violence always has a cost, even when it's necessary. But some things are worth that cost. Your lives are worth it. Elder Mian approached, moving slowly through the settlement. He had been one of the hostages on Vexoth's ship, had witnessed Captain Kim's team rescue them with controlled fury and precise violence. The contrast between human ferocity and human gentleness was difficult for his telepathic mind to reconcile. I need to understand, Mian said to Song. Your people are capable of such terrible violence, yet you use it only to protect others. How is this possible? What it's no. We have Li One. Song stood, looking at the ancient being with respect. My people learned a long time ago that the capacity for violence is just a tool. It's not good or bad by itself. What matters is why you use it, and whether you can control it. She gestured to the human aid workers helping repair damaged buildings. We can be warriors when we need to be, but we'd rather be builders. Mian absorbed this, sharing the concept through the telepathic network. The Yvari had never conceived of violence as a tool, as something that could be controlled and directed toward good ends. To them, it was simply an evil to be avoided. The humans were teaching them a new perspective that sometimes, to protect peace, you needed the strength to defend it. In orbit, the last Krelith ship was cornered by 3 human destroyers. The ship's captain, a young Krelith named Syrax, knew she had no chance of escape. She opened a channel to the nearest human vessel. I surrender, she said simply. Commander Li Sojung of the UES Dauntless studied the Krelith ship. Scans showed it had minimal weapons, was barely combat capable. This had probably been a support vessel, dragged into the raid by Vexoth's orders. Power down all systems and prepare to be boarded, Li ordered. But her tone was less harsh than it had been with other Krelith ships. If you cooperate, you'll be treated fairly. When Li's boarding team secured the ship, they found the crew consisted largely of young, inexperienced Krelith. Many had been pressed into service, forced to join the raid against their will. Li made a decision that would have surprised the Council observers. These aren't hardened raiders, she told Admiral Chen over a secure channel. They're kids who got caught up in something bigger than them, Request permission to separate them from the main prisoners and offer them clemency in exchange for testimony against the raid leaders. Chen considered this. The hunt had been about sending a message, but it had also been about justice, not blind revenge. Granted, but make sure they understand, if any of them ever participate in something like this again, there won't be a second chance. The message spread quickly through the captured Krelith. The humans would show mercy to those who deserved it, but they would be absolutely merciless to those who preyed on the innocent. It was a lesson that would be remembered. Back on the Yvari homeworld, human teachers had begun offering basic self-defense instruction to any Yvari who wanted to learn. Not combat training, the Yvari would never be warriors, but simple techniques to break free from grabs, to run effectively, to recognize danger and respond to it. "We're not trying to change who you are," explained Lieutenant Kang Ji-won, demonstrating a basic escape technique to a group of curious Yvari. "You're a peaceful people, and that's beautiful. But peace is easier to maintain when you have at least some ability to protect yourselves." One of the Yvari, a teacher named Sylvan, practiced the technique hesitantly. "This feels wrong. We should never need to harm others." "You're not harming anyone," Ji-won corrected gently. "You're just making it harder for others to harm you. There's a difference." The concept slowly took hold. The Yvari began to understand that self-defense wasn't the same as aggression, that protecting oneself didn't mean abandoning their peaceful nature. Weeks later, when the last Krelith ship had been captured or destroyed, Admiral Chen compiled her after-action report. 0 human fatalities. 23 wounded, all recovering. Every Yvari recovered safely. Complete destruction of the Krelith raiding fleet, and a message sent to the entire galaxy that would echo for generations. She transmitted the report to both Fleet Command and the Galactic Council, knowing the political storm that was coming. But as she watched her ships form up for the journey home, with rescued Yvari aboard being cared for by human medical staff, she knew she'd made the right choice. Protection without teeth was just a pretty lie. The Yvari had learned that the hard way. Now the rest of the galaxy would learn it too. 3 months after the battle, Ambassador Ji-won Park stood before the Galactic Council once again. The chamber was packed with delegates from every member species, all of them watching her with expressions ranging from anger to respect to fear. The formal censure motion had been filed by the Vorqual Collective, supported by 87 other species. Ambassador Thexan read the charges with grave formality. "The Galactic Council hereby censures humanity for excessive use of military force, unauthorized military action in a protected zone, violations of established rules of engagement, and the pursuit and destruction of enemy forces that had clearly withdrawn from combat." Ji-won listened without expression. She had known this was coming. The human military response resulted in the complete destruction of the Krelith raiding fleet. With an estimated 12,000 casualties, Thexan continued. "While we acknowledge that your actions successfully recovered the Yvari captives, the level of force employed was grossly disproportionate to the tactical requirements." Ambassador Krell of the Saxith Empire stood, his scales gleaming under the chamber lights. "The humans have shown themselves to be exactly what we feared when we granted them council membership: violent, aggressive, and unable to follow civilized rules of conduct. I move that humanity be suspended from the council for a period of no less than 20 standard years." Murmurs of agreement rippled through parts of the chamber, but Ji-won noticed that not everyone was nodding along. Several delegations sat quietly, watching her with something that looked like understanding. When the chamber quieted, Ji-won rose to speak. She had prepared a careful diplomatic response, full of the appropriate regrets and promises to do better. But as she looked around the chamber, at the same delegates who had debated and delayed while the Yvari suffered, she discarded her prepared remarks. "We are not sorry," she said, simply. The chamber erupted in outrage. Thexan banged his gavel repeatedly, calling for order. "Ambassador Park, this council expects—" "I know what this council expects," Ji-won interrupted. "You expect us to apologize for saving lives, to express remorse for stopping slavers, to promise that next time we'll wait patiently while you debate and form committees and file the proper paperwork while innocent beings are dragged away to lives of suffering and servitude. She walked to the center of the chamber, her voice carrying clearly to every delegate. We will not do that. We will never do that. Because the Yvari didn't need a committee. They didn't need a strongly worded resolution or economic sanctions. They needed someone to actually help them. And they needed it immediately. You violated every established protocol, Krell shouted. Your protocols failed them, G1 shot back. You created Category 1 protection, promised them safety, and when they needed you most, all you could offer was debate and delay. Where was the Vorqual Collective when the Krelith landed? Where was the Saxith Empire when Yvari children were being dragged onto slave ships? Ambassador So-Yun Lee, who had been promoted to senior delegate after G1's actions, stood beside her. The Council wants to punish us for doing what you should have done. You want us to apologize for caring more about results than procedures. There must be order, Thexan insisted. There must be rules. Without them, the galaxy descends into chaos, and without action, So-Yun replied quietly, the galaxy descends into comfortable indifference, where good intentions matter more than good results. Before the debate could continue, the chamber doors opened. A delegation of Yvari entered, led by Elder Mian. They had never attended a council session before, had never even left their homeworld until humans brought them here. The sight of the small, gentle beings silenced the chamber immediately. Mian walked slowly to the speaking platform, his movements carrying the weight of his great age. He looked around at the assembled species, his large eyes taking in every delegate. I speak for my people, he said, his soft voice amplified by the chamber's systems. We have listened to this debate, and we must offer our perspective. Elder Mian, Thexan said carefully, we understand you may feel gratitude toward the humans, but gratitude? Mian's telepathic presence touched every mind in the chamber, letting them feel a fraction of what his people had experienced. You protected us with laws. The humans protected us with action. You promised us safety. The humans gave us safety. He turned to look directly at the human delegation. My people have been pacifists for 20,000 years. We have never understood violence, never comprehended how thinking beings could harm one another. The humans taught us something new, that sometimes violence is the only language that predators understand. But at what cost? Asked Ambassador Pelthix. The humans killed thousands. They pursued defeated enemies. They showed no mercy. They showed perfect mercy, Mian corrected gently. They showed mercy to us, to the victims, to the helpless. They showed none to those who would prey upon the innocent. That is exactly the mercy the galaxy needs. He paused, letting that sink in, then continued. This council speaks often of civilization, of proper conduct, of following rules. But what use are rules that protect the guilty more than the innocent? What value is civilization if it cannot defend those who cannot defend themselves? The chamber was utterly silent. No one had expected this quiet rebuke from the peaceful Yvari. My people have made a decision, Mian announced. We hereby request that the Galactic Council remove the Category 1 protection designation from our world. Shocked gasps echoed through the chamber. Furthermore, Mian continued, we formally request that humanity be granted responsibility for our protection and security. We trust them to keep us safe in a way that we no longer trust this council. Thexan looked stunned. Elder Mian, surely you don't mean— I mean exactly what I say, Mian replied firmly. And we are not alone in this sentiment. The chamber doors opened again, and 16 more delegations entered, representatives from every Category 1 protected species in the galaxy. They had all been following the Yvari situation closely. They had all seen what happened when the Council's protection failed, and what happened when humanity stepped in. One by one, they made the same request. They wanted human protection. Over the following hours, the political landscape of the galaxy shifted. The Council couldn't afford to lose oversight of 17 protected species. After intense negotiations, a compromise was reached. Humanity would be integrated into the Council's protection fleet as a semi-autonomous force, operating under their own rules of engagement, but coordinating with Council oversight. It was less than the Council wanted, and more than humanity had expected. But it was a recognition that their approach, for all its violence, had achieved something the Council's procedures had not: actual protection. 6 months later, Admiral Chen stood on the surface of the Yvari homeworld, attending the dedication of a new monument in the central settlement. The Yvari had spent months crafting it, pouring their artistic talents into creating something that would honor what had happened. The monument showed a human and a Yvari standing side by side, the human's hand resting protectively on the Yavari's shoulder. The base was inscribed in both languages. True protection is not a promise. It is a presence. Elder Mian stood beside Chen, his aged mind still sharp and clear. "You changed us," he said quietly. "We are still a peaceful people, but we are no longer naive. We understand now that peace must sometimes be defended." "I hope we didn't take too much from you," Chen replied, thinking of the Yavari's gentle nature, worried that exposure to violence might have damaged something precious. "You took nothing," Mian assured her. "You gave us something we lacked: the knowledge that good beings will stand against evil when necessary. You reminded the galaxy of something it had forgotten." "What's that?" "That civilization is not measured by how well you follow rules in times of peace. It is measured by what you are willing to do when the innocent suffer." Chen looked at the monument, at the image of human and Yvari together. Across the galaxy, on 16 other protected worlds, similar monuments were being built. Humanity had earned something rare and precious: not just respect, but trust. The Council had tried to protect these species with laws and protocols, with procedures and proper forms. They had built walls of rules and hoped they would be enough. But humanity had taught a different lesson, one that was spreading across the galaxy like ripples in a pond. Protection without strength is just hope. Laws without enforcement are just words. And sometimes, the only way to preserve peace is to be absolutely committed to defending it. With every resource at your disposal, with complete dedication, with the willingness to do whatever is necessary to keep the innocent safe. In the Council chambers, the debates continued about proper use of force, about proportional response, about following established procedures. But in the protected zones across the galaxy, there was a new presence. Human ships patrolled the borders. Human soldiers trained local forces. Human diplomats worked to resolve conflicts before they turned violent. And everyone from the smallest settlement to the largest empire knew one thing with absolute certainty: if you attacked a protected species, if you preyed upon the helpless, if you ignored the warnings and violated the sanctity of the innocent, humanity would come for you. Not in months. Not after debates and committees and proper procedures. They would come immediately, with overwhelming force, with absolute commitment. And they would not stop until justice was done. That was the final lesson humanity taught the galaxy. Not that might makes right, but that the right must have might behind it. Not that violence solves all problems, but that refusing to use violence when necessary solves none. The Galactic Council had tried to protect the Yvari with promises and procedures. Humanity had protected them with action and commitment. In the end, the galaxy learned which kind of protection actually mattered. And they learned it from a species that had walked among the stars for barely a generation, but understood something that ancient civilizations had forgotten: that the measure of a civilization is not found in its laws, but in its willingness to enforce them when the innocent cry out for help. The humans called it responsibility. The Yvari called it salvation. The Council called it excessive. History would call it necessary. Ambassador Park stood with Admiral Chen at the monument dedication, watching as Yvari children played nearby children who would grow up free because someone had been willing to fight for them. She thought about the censure motion, about the political battles ahead, about the species who still questioned humanity's methods. Let them question, she thought. Let them debate and analyze and critique. We'll be too busy actually protecting people to care. Beside her, Admiral Chen smiled as if reading her thoughts. Ji-won looked at the monument one last time, at the words carved into its base. True protection is not a promise. It is a presence. Yes, she said. We have 17 systems to watch over now. Let's make sure they never need to build monuments to remember being saved. They walked away together as the sun set on the Yavari homeworld, their shadows stretching long across the peaceful settlement. Behind them, human and Yavari worked side by side, building a future where protection meant more than paperwork, where safety was guaranteed not by laws alone, but by the unwavering commitment of those strong enough to defend the weak. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Now it was time to build something better.
Captain Jinwoo Park stood before the Galactic Council chamber, his jaw tight with frustration. The massive circular room held representatives from 40 different species, all sitting in their comfortable seats while he showed them images of burning ships and dead civilians. On the holographic display, another merchant vessel floated in pieces, its crew lost to the Cravathi pirates who now controlled 3 entire sectors of space. "This is the 15th attack in 2 months, Park said, his voice steady despite his anger. The Cravathi pirate syndicate is not just raiding cargo anymore. They are killing crews, taking prisoners, and selling them as slaves. They grow stronger every day while we talk." Ambassador Velnara, a tall Korthian with silver skin and 3 eyes, raised one elegant hand. "Captain Park, we understand your concern. However, the Council cannot simply deploy military forces based on incomplete evidence. We have protocols. We have procedures that exist for good reasons." Park felt heat rise in his chest. "Incomplete evidence? I just showed you 15 destroyed ships." "Yes, but we must verify these incidents through proper channels," another council member said, their translator making their clicking sounds into words. "We need investigation committees. We need diplomatic outreach to determine if these pirates can be reasoned with. Military action is always the last resort." "How many more people have to die while you verify and investigate?" Park demanded. Velnara's expression remained calm and diplomatic. "Captain, your species is still new to galactic society. You do not understand how things work here. Rushing into military action creates more problems than it solves. We estimate that in 6 months, perhaps 7, we will have completed our investigation and can present options to the full council." "6 months," Park repeated, his voice hollow. "In 6 months, hundreds more ships will burn. Thousands more people will die or disappear into slave markets." "That is speculation," Velnara said firmly. "We deal in facts and proper procedure. This session is concluded. We will review your evidence and schedule further discussions." Park watched as the council members began filing out, chatting amongst themselves about completely different topics. To them, this was just another meeting, another problem to table for later discussion. He gathered his data files and left the chamber, his hands shaking with suppressed rage. The station bar was crowded with off-duty ship crews, but Park found the corner table where 3 other human captains waited for him. Lieutenant Su-Min Lee, his second-in-command, sat beside Captain Maria Chen of the cargo hauler, Steady Progress, and Captain Thomas Wright from the mining vessel, Iron Will. They all looked at him with expectant faces. "Let me guess," Chen said. "More committees?" Park nodded and sat down heavily. 6 months minimum before they even consider taking action. Wright slammed his fist on the table. 6 months! The Cravathi hit another colony transport yesterday. Took the whole crew. That is 40 people gone, probably sold to the highest bidder by now. Lee pulled up data on her personal tablet. "I have been tracking the attacks. The pattern is clear. The pirates are testing council response times. They have figured out that nobody will stop them. Each raid gets bolder. Each attack goes deeper into supposedly protected space. The Council does not care, Chen said bitterly. They sit in their safe stations and debate while real people suffer. My cousin was on that colony transport. 40 years old, 3 kids, just trying to make a living hauling supplies. Now she is gone because the mighty Galactic Council needs to verify evidence. Park looked at each of them. These were good people, experienced spacers who knew the risks of traveling the shipping lanes. But they also knew right from wrong. They knew that when someone attacked innocent people, you did not form a committee. You acted. What if we did not wait for permission? Park said quietly. The table went silent. Lee looked at him with sharp eyes. You mean act independently, without council authorization? The Cravathi main base is in the Theta Belt asteroid field, Park continued. We know where it is. We have the information the council says they need to verify. What if we just went and dealt with it ourselves? Wright leaned back. That is insane. My mining ship has basic defensive weapons, not military-grade hardware. Chen's hauler has even less. Your patrol ship is what? 40 years old? 42, Lee corrected with a slight smile. Against a pirate fleet? Chen shook her head. They have 20 warships according to intelligence. We would be destroyed. Park met each of their eyes. Maybe. Probably. But at least we would be doing something. At least we would be trying to help instead of sitting in meetings while people die. The council will debate for 6 months. How many more crews will the pirates take in that time? You are talking about starting an unauthorized military operation, Lee said carefully. The council will be furious. Earth government will probably disavow us. We could lose our licenses, our ships, everything. I know, Park said, but I cannot sit here anymore. I cannot watch more people die because bureaucrats need proper channels and verification. Those pirates understand one language, force, and if the council will not speak it, then maybe we should. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled, and it was not a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who had made a hard decision. My cargo bays are full of metal containers, heavy ones. I bet those would make excellent obstacles in an asteroid field. Wright nodded slowly. My mining ship has drilling equipment strong enough to crack asteroids. I wonder what that would do to someone's defensive positions. Lee pulled up star charts on her tablet. The Theta Belt is 4 days away at normal speed. If we departed separately and met at coordinates outside council monitoring range, nobody would know until we were already gone. Park felt something settle in his chest. This was right. This was what needed to happen. He stood up and raised his glass. Fine, he said, and the word felt like freedom. We will do it ourselves. The other captains stood and clinked their glasses against his. They knew the risks. They knew they might not survive, but they also knew that sometimes doing the right thing meant not waiting for permission. Ambassador Velnara sat in her office hours later, reviewing reports. A note crossed her desk about several human vessels departing their scheduled routes. She marked it as low priority. Humans were impulsive, everyone knew that. They would probably be back in a few days after their little adventure accomplished nothing. She had no idea that she was watching history begin. She had no idea that the phrase, "Fine, we will do it ourselves," was about to become the most feared sentence in the galaxy. The Theta Belt asteroid field stretched across space like a wall of tumbling rock. Inside that chaos of stone and ice, the Cravathi pirates had built their fortress over 3 years. They chose well. The asteroids provided natural cover and made conventional attacks nearly impossible. Sensor readings bounced off the rocks. Navigation became a nightmare. Any military force would need months to plan a safe approach. The 5 human ships arrived at the belt's edge and did not plan at all. All right, Captain Park said over the communication channel linking all 5 vessels. Everyone remembers what we discussed? Create chaos. Survive the chaos, win through the chaos, Lee responded from her tactical station aboard the makeshift Justice. Simple plan. That is not a plan, Wright said from the Iron Will. That is barely even an idea. Welcome to the human way of doing things, Chen added cheerfully from the steady progress. Inside the asteroid fortress, Pirate Lord Zarthok received reports of the approaching human ships. The Kravathi commander was massive even by his species' standards, with 4 arms covered in battle scars and eyes that had watched countless victims beg for mercy. He looked at the tactical display and laughed, his translator turning his hissing sounds into mocking words. 5 ships? 5 tiny ships? The humans are even more foolish than I believed. Send 10 vessels to destroy them. Make it slow. I want the galaxy to see what happens when someone challenges us without council backing. 20 warships emerged from the asteroid cover, their weapons hot and ready. They were proper military vessels, stolen from various species over years of raiding. Each one outgunned the human ships 3-1. By every tactical calculation, the battle should be over in minutes. Then the humans started moving, and tactical calculations stopped meaning anything. Wright's mining ship, Iron Will, moved straight toward the largest asteroid cluster, his drilling equipment activated with a high-pitched whine that echoed through space. He did not drill carefully or precisely. He drilled fast, punching holes deep into 3 different asteroids in quick succession. "What is he doing?" Zarthok demanded. "Those drill hits are destabilizing the asteroid orbits." He was right. The asteroids started tumbling in new directions, their predictable paths becoming wild and dangerous. 2 pirate warships had to veer sharply to avoid collisions. A third was not fast enough. A chunk of rock the size of a house smashed into its port side, crumpling armor plating and knocking out its engines. Chen's cargo hauler joined the chaos. She opened her bay doors and started dumping containers. Thousands of tons of metal boxes spilled into space, each one becoming a tumbling obstacle. The containers spread out, creating an expanding field of debris that filled the space between asteroids. "Insane!" Zarthok roared. "They are making the battlefield impossible for everyone, including themselves." But that was the point. The pirates had trained to fight in predictable conditions. Their tactics relied on sensor data and calculated movements. The humans were turning the battlefield into pure chaos, and chaos was something they understood very well. Park guided the makeshift Justice through the debris field at speeds that made his crew grip their seats. He dodged containers by meters, slipped between tumbling asteroids with centimeters to spare, and somehow kept his aging patrol ship intact through maneuvers that should have torn it apart. "Target their sensor arrays," he ordered Lee. "Blind them." Lee worked her tactical station with practiced precision. She picked shots carefully, not wasting ammunition on armor or shields. Instead, she targeted the external sensors on pirate ships. 1 shot, 1 sensor array destroyed. The pirates started losing their ability to track targets through the chaos. In the engineering section, Ji-Hoon Kim watched his displays with growing alarm. Hull stress was at 140% of safety limits. Power conduits were overheating. The engine made sounds that no engine should make. Everything told him they should stop immediately and make repairs. Instead, he rerouted power from life support to shields, bypassed 3 safety systems, and boosted engine output to levels the manufacturers would call impossible. "We will hold together," he muttered to himself in Korean. "We will hold together because I say so." The pirate warships tried to adapt. They formed defensive groups and attempted coordinated attacks. But coordinated attacks required communication, and communication required clear sensor data. With half their sensors blind and asteroids tumbling everywhere, coordination became impossible. A pirate commander tried to lock weapons on the steady progress. Chen's cargo hauler looked helpless, fat, and slow. An easy target. The pirate ship moved in for the kill. Then Wright's mining ship appeared from behind an asteroid and drove its drilling equipment straight through the pirate's engine section. The warship died instantly, power core going dark. "Sorry about that," Wright said over the communication channel. "Did I forget to mention my drill goes through armor?" Zarthok watched his tactical advantage disappear into chaos. He had superior numbers and firepower, but those meant nothing when his ships could not navigate safely. 3 more warships collided with debris. Another took damage from a tumbling asteroid. His fleet was scattered, blind, and increasingly desperate. Park saw the opportunity. "All ships, converge on the flagship, now!" The 5 human vessels moved through the chaos like they were born in it. They dodged and weaved, using obstacles instead of avoiding them, turning the deadly debris field into cover and concealment. The pirate flagship suddenly found itself surrounded, separated from its support vessels by walls of tumbling rock and metal containers. Zarthok realized his mistake too late. He had assumed humans would fight like everyone else, with careful planning and calculated risk. He never considered they might embrace chaos itself as a weapon. "Retreat!" he ordered his fleet. "Fall back to the fortress!" The pirate ships broke formation and fled toward the relative safety of the asteroid base. Park let them go. This first battle was not about destroying the pirates, it was about sending a message. Lee checked her tactical display. 5 pirate warships destroyed or disabled, 3 more damaged, 0 human casualties. "Yet," Kim added from engineering, "we have 0 human casualties yet. This ship is held together by hope and my personal stubbornness." Park smiled despite the tension. "Good enough. Signal the fleet. We hold position here." Back at Council headquarters, Ambassador Velnara watched the battle reports come in with growing disbelief. Her 3 eyes widened as she read the tactical summary. Impossible. The humans should be dead. Instead, they had defeated a superior force through methods so unconventional they bordered on madness. She opened a communication channel to Earth's diplomatic office. "What are your ships doing?" The human ambassador looked tired. "Apparently, what we should have done months ago. They are protecting innocent people since the Council would not." Velnara felt something cold settle in her stomach. This was not just one battle. This was the beginning of something that would change everything. The humans had just proven they did not need permission, did not need proper channels, and did not need the Council's approval. They only needed determination and a willingness to embrace chaos. In the Theta Belt, Park looked at his tired crew. "Rest while you can. Tomorrow we finish this." News traveled fast across the galaxy. Within 12 hours, every major news network broadcast the story of 5 human ships defeating a pirate fleet through pure chaos and determination. Within 24 hours, the story reached every trade route, every station, and every ship in known space. Within 48 hours, everything changed. Captain Park sat in his command chair aboard the makeshift Justice, reviewing damage reports. Kim had somehow kept the ship running, though he described its current state as technically impossible but practically functional. Through the view screen, the asteroid field floated peacefully, the pirate fortress silent and dark after their successful assault. They had won. Then his communication system started going crazy. "Captain Park, this is the cargo vessel Morning Star out of Rigel Station. We heard what you did. We want to help." "Captain, this is mining ship Deep Fortune. We have crews who lost friends to pirates. We are ready to fight." "Makeshift Justice, this is the hauler Second Chance. Tell us where to go. We will be there." Lee looked at Park with wide eyes. "Sir, I am counting messages from 37 different human vessels. They all want to join us." Park stood and activated the main broadcast channel. His face appeared on screens across multiple star systems, reaching every human ship that had contacted them. "This is Captain Jinwoo Park. I did not start this to build an army. I started it because the Council would not protect innocent people. If you join us, understand what that means. No official support, no backup, no guarantee of survival. We do this because it is right, not because it is safe." He paused, letting his words sink in. "If you still want to help after hearing that, then welcome aboard. Send your coordinates. We have a lot of work to do." By the end of the day, 12 human ships had joined their small fleet. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The chamber buzzed with anxious conversation from dozens of species representatives. Ambassador Velnara stood at the central podium, her silver skin slightly pale. "The human ships have now conducted operations in 4 different sectors," she reported, "all against pirate or criminal targets, all without authorization." "This is unacceptable," shouted a Hixarian delegate. "They act like vigilantes. They ignore our laws and procedures." "Their procedures work," another voice called out. It was Ambassador Krell, representing the Margoni Trade Federation. "Our ships have been attacked by pirates for 3 years. 3 years of council committees and investigations. The humans end the attacks in 3 days." "That is beside the point," Velnara argued, though her voice lacked its usual confidence. "We cannot allow individual species to conduct military operations without oversight. It creates chaos." "The pirates created chaos," Krell shot back. "The humans created safety. My people's cargo ships are traveling routes again that were considered too dangerous last week. Human patrols make that possible." The debate raged for hours. Some species demanded the humans be stopped and punished. Others quietly admitted they wished their own people had shown such courage. All of them recognized that something fundamental had shifted in how galactic security worked. Meanwhile, the humans kept working. A human freighter crew named the Lucky Dragon reached a prison station where captured civilians were held before being sold as slaves. The crew had no military training. They had welding torches, mining charges, and absolute determination. They cut through the station's hull in 3 places simultaneously, stormed inside through the breaches, and freed 47 prisoners from 6 different species. The operation took 11 minutes from breach to escape. The slavers never knew what hit them. Another group of human ships found a smuggling operation running weapons to pirate groups. The smugglers operated from a hidden station in a nebula, thinking they were invisible. The human engineer, named Sarah Kim, figured out how to track their ion trails through the nebula's interference. Once located, Captain Lisa Park simply rammed her heavy cargo hauler through the station's docking bay at full speed, then backed out before the smugglers could react. The station depressurized. The smugglers evacuated in escape pods. The weapons were destroyed. Total human casualties, 0. Total operation time, 7 minutes. Park received reports of each operation. Humans were spreading across 4 sectors, hitting every criminal target they could find. Each operation was different. Each one improvised. Each one succeeded through sheer human stubbornness and refusal to accept that something was impossible. "Sir, pirate activity has dropped by 30% across our operating area," Lee reported, showing him the statistics. "Trade ship attacks are down 45%. And we are getting messages from other species thanking us." Park nodded, but his expression was troubled. "We are winning battles, but we are also making enemies. The Council sees us as disrupting their authority. Eventually, they will have to respond." He was right. The response came in the worst possible way. Zarthok, the Kravathi pirate lord, had escaped the destruction of his main fortress. He fled to a secondary base with what remained of his fleet, his pride wounded and his reputation destroyed. The galaxy laughed at how 5 human ships had defeated his forces. Other pirates whispered that the mighty Zarthok had been beaten by creatures barely older than children in galactic terms. He needed to restore fear. He needed to prove that challenging him had consequences. His ships descended on a small human colony world called New Eden. The settlement held 3,000 people, mostly families trying to build new lives farming on a frontier world. They had minimal defenses because they never expected to need them. This was supposed to be safe space, protected by council treaties. The pirates landed and took 500 colonists hostage. Zarthok sent his message to every human ship and every council station. The human attacks end now, or these prisoners die. You have 72 hours. Pull back your ships. Stop your operations, or I start executing one hostage every hour. Park watched the message with cold fury. Around him, his crew sat in shocked silence. He took families, Lee said quietly. There are children among those hostages. Park's hands clenched into fists. This was escalation beyond anything they had prepared for. This was a pirate lord gambling that the council would force humans to back down rather than let civilians die. Zarthok was betting on bureaucracy and procedure winning over human determination. The communication system lit up with urgent messages from council headquarters. Ambassador Velnara's face appeared on the screen, her 3 eyes filled with concern. Captain Park, the council demands you cease all operations immediately. Zarthok's action is a direct result of your unauthorized activities. You must withdraw and let proper authorities handle this. Proper authorities, Park repeated, his voice dangerously quiet. The same authorities who have done nothing for 3 years? The same authorities who told me to wait 6 months while people died? This is different, Velnara insisted. He has hostages. If you continue operations, those people will die. The council is prepared to negotiate for their release through proper diplomatic channels. Park looked at his crew. He saw the anger in their eyes, the determination. He saw people who understood that backing down now meant every pirate in the galaxy would start taking hostages. It meant fear wins and evil succeeds because good people were too afraid to act. He turned back to the screen. Tell the council they can handle this however they want, but humanity will not stop. We will not negotiate. We will not back down. Velnara looked horrified. You are sentencing those hostages to death. No, Park said coldly. Zarthok sentenced them. He just made a fatal mistake. He made it personal. Now we do not stop until every last pirate base is destroyed and he is dead or captured. He cut the communication channel and turned to his crew. Send the message to every human ship. Every single one. We are going to New Eden. We are getting those people back. And we are going to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten human families. 30 human ships gathered in the space outside New Eden's star system. They came from every sector, every trade route, and every corner where humans worked. Cargo haulers, mining vessels, passenger transports, and aging patrol craft. None of them were warships. All of them were ready to fight. Captain Park stood on the bridge of the makeshift Justice, looking at the tactical display. Zarthok's fortress station was built into a moon orbiting New Eden. Sensors showed heavy shields, point defense systems, and enough firepower to destroy a proper military fleet. The hostages were held in the station's core, surrounded by layers of armor and defenses. Galactic military experts broadcast their analysis across every news network. 90% human casualties if they attacked directly. Maybe higher. The fortress was simply too strong. So we do not attack directly, Park said to his assembled ship captains via communication link. What else can we do? Wright asked from the Iron Will. We cannot tunnel through a moon like we did with asteroids. Why not? Engineer Kim spoke up, his face appearing on the screen. Give me the Iron Will, 3 other mining ships, and some cargo haulers to provide cover. I can get us inside. That is insane, Chen said, but she was smiling. I love it. What is the plan? Kim pulled up detailed scans of the moon. The fortress is built into the surface, but the moon itself is mostly rock and ice. We drill from the opposite side, tunnel through, and come up underneath their defenses. They watch space. We come from underground. That will take days, someone protested. No, Kim said confidently. It will take 11 hours if we push the equipment hard, which I will, obviously. Lee worked her tactical station. We need a distraction, something big enough to keep all their attention focused on space while the drilling teams work. Park nodded slowly. An idea formed. A crazy, dangerous, perfectly human idea. We make them think we have a super weapon, something scary enough that they have to focus everything on it. Within 6 hours, the plan came together. It was not a good plan by normal standards. It was barely a plan at all. But it was human, which meant it relied on improvisation, misdirection, and absolute confidence that they could solve problems as they appeared. The cargo ship, Steady Progress, became the centerpiece. Chen's crew welded extra hull plating to make it look heavier. They mounted fake weapons and added broadcasting equipment that made the ship's sensor signature read like something 10 times larger. The improvised superweapon looked impressive on sensors, even if it was actually a cargo hauler with delusions of grandeur. "Everyone ready?" Park asked. 30 voices confirmed across the communication channel. "Then let us show them what happens when you threaten human families." The Steady Progress jumped into New Eden space broadcasting signals that identified it as Earth's newest dreadnought. The Fortress Station's sensors immediately locked on. Zarthok's voice came over all frequencies, hissing with anger and fear. "Humans, you dare bring a warship here? I will execute the hostages right now." "No, you will not," Park replied calmly. "Because if you do, we will turn that fortress into dust. But if you release them, we might let you live." It was a bluff. The Steady Progress could not destroy anything. But Zarthok did not know that. All his sensors showed a massive human warship pointing weapons at his station. Every pirate defense system activated, focusing on the fake threat. While they watched the fake dreadnought, 4 mining ships approached the moon from the opposite side. Kim coordinated their drilling with precision. 4 massive drills punched into rock and ice, driving deep into the moon's interior. The equipment screamed from strain, running at 200% of rated capacity. Kim ignored every safety warning and pushed harder. "Tunnel stable," he reported, proceeding to Phase 2. Inside the fortress, Zarthok divided his attention between the human ship in space and his hostages. He kept sensors focused outward, never thinking to check beneath him. Why would he? Nobody attacked from underground. The drilling teams worked for 9 hours. They hit obstacles and drilled through them. They found unstable rock and reinforced it with quick-setting foam. When one drill overheated and died, they rerouted and kept going. Every problem got solved with improvisation and determination. At hour 10, they broke through into a maintenance tunnel beneath the fortress. "We are in," Kim reported. "Starting infiltration." 20 humans entered the tunnel. They carried welding tools, mining charges, and whatever weapons they could improvise. Lieutenant Su-Min Lee led the team, moving fast through the maintenance passages. They used the fortress's own layout against it, navigating through power conduits and life support systems. A pirate guard spotted them. Lee's team did not hesitate. They flooded the corridor with foam from fire suppression equipment, blinding the guard, then knocked him unconscious with a piece of pipe. Professional tactics meant nothing when opponents fought with whatever came to hand. The team split up, moving toward multiple objectives. Kim's group headed for the power core. Lee's team went for the hostages. A third group targeted the fortress defense grid. In the command center, Zarthok suddenly received alarms. "Intruders in Sector 7! No! Sector 12! They are inside the station!" "Impossible!" his second-in-command shouted. "How did they get past our sensors?" "Because you watched space and we came from below," Kim said cheerfully over the station's communication system. He had reached the power core and plugged into the main computer. "Surprise!" Chaos erupted throughout the fortress. Kim overloaded power conduits, causing lights to flicker and systems to fail. Lee's team blew through 3 walls with mining charges, taking the most direct route to the hostages regardless of architectural plans. The defense grid team fed false sensor data into the system, making the pirates think they were being attacked from every direction. Lee reached the hostage chamber. Zarthok himself guarded the door with 10 heavily armed pirates. They expected negotiations or careful tactics. Instead, 3 walls exploded simultaneously as mining charges detonated. Flash charges filled the room with blinding light and deafening sound. Smoke grenades created total confusion. In the chaos, Lee's team moved through like they had practiced this 1,000 times, even though they were making it up as they went. "Hostages, stay down!" Lee shouted. "Everyone else, you have one chance to surrender." The pirates, blinded and confused, dropped their weapons. Zarthok tried to run. A human engineer tripped him with a piece of conduit, then sat on him until others could secure him with cargo straps. 4 minutes after breaching the chamber, every hostage was free and moving toward the tunnels. "All teams, withdraw," Park ordered. "Kim, what is the status of that power core?" "Oh, it is going to explode," Kim said casually. "I set it to overload about 10 minutes ago. We should probably leave." "How long do we have?" 15 minutes, maybe 12. Engineering is more art than science." The evacuation became a controlled rush. Teams guided hostages through the tunnels they had drilled. Pirates tried to follow, but humans kept blocking passages with collapsed rock and sealed doors. The fortress systems went crazy as power fluctuations cascaded through every system. Zarthok screamed orders over his communication system. "All ships, launch! Abandon the fortress!" The pirate fleet scattered, ships fleeing in every direction. None of them wanted to be near the station when its power core exploded. Park watched from the makeshift Justice as the last humans and hostages cleared the moon's surface. "Kim, status?" 5 minutes. Everyone is clear. You might want to back up a little." The human fleet jumped to safe distance. The fortress station's power core reached critical mass. The explosion lit up the moon's surface, visible from 3 star systems away. The entire fortress disappeared in a ball of fire that carved a crater into the moon itself. Park activated the galaxy-wide communication channel. "This is Captain Jinwoo Park to all pirates, slavers, and criminals. This is what happens when you threaten human families. This is why you should have left us alone. If you prey on innocent people, we will find you. If you take hostages, we will free them. If you think hiding makes you safe, remember we tunneled through a moon." He paused, letting his words reach every corner of the galaxy. "The Council wanted proper channels and procedures. We gave you action and results. Choose wisely who you threaten, because humans do not stop. Ever." Ambassador Velnara watched the broadcast from Council headquarters. Around her, representatives from 40 species sat in stunned silence. The humans had just achieved the impossible through methods so unconventional they bordered on insanity. "They tunneled through a moon," someone whispered. "They made a cargo ship look like a dreadnought," another added. "They freed 500 hostages with 0 casualties." Velnara realized the galaxy had changed. The humans had proven something terrifying and wonderful. When properly motivated, when protecting their own, humans simply did not recognize the word impossible. 3 months passed. The galaxy transformed in ways nobody predicted. Pirate activity dropped 70% across all monitored sectors. Criminal syndicates abandoned their bases in human-patrolled space. Slave markets shut down or moved to the furthest edges of known territory. The phrase, "the humans are coming," became the nightmare that woke pirate captains in cold sweats. Human ships patrolled trade routes that had been considered too dangerous for years. They traveled in loose groups, never following predictable patterns, always ready to respond to distress calls. When pirates attacked anyone, human or not, human vessels appeared within hours, sometimes minutes. The response was never gentle, it was never by the book, it was always effective. Captain Jinwoo Park stood in the shuttle bay of a council station, adjusting his dress uniform.